Behind the bright stage lights, the roaring audiences, and the glitter of fame that followed Elvis Presley everywhere he went, there was another side of the legend that very few people ever truly saw. A side not built on glamorous performances or iconic vocals, but on a deep, quiet creativity he kept hidden from the public eye. In the early years of his career, most people knew Elvis as a gifted singer who could transform any song into an unforgettable masterpiece. But few realized that Elvis also possessed a striking ability to create music of his own, with sensitivity and detail that could surprise even the most accomplished songwriters. This story begins on a day when Elvis sat alone in a small studio room, holding the old acoustic guitar that had stayed with him through his struggling years in Memphis. The studio felt unusually silent, with only the soft hum of the air conditioner and the faint echo of a shifting chair. Elvis often visited this room whenever he felt something pressing inside him, something he couldn't express on stage, and that day he felt a strong urge to release a feeling that refused to stay silent. For months before that moment, Elvis had been standing at a crossroads in his career. He was being chased by record labels, overwhelmed by touring schedules, pressured by management, and constantly pushed to maintain a perfect public image. Yet behind all those expectations, Elvis felt there was an artistic side of himself he had not yet explored. He was known for a voice that shaped the course of modern music, but who truly knew what he wanted to say if there were no rules, no producers, no boundaries? That was why he began writing that little song, starting from a single soft note he gently plucked. The note felt like a whisper from his childhood, simple, warm, and honest. Elvis then hummed a few words that floated into his mind, blending with a delicate rhythm that seemed to flow effortlessly, as though he was merely channeling something that already existed. During that same period, Leiber and Stoller, Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, the legendary songwriting duo, were collaborating with RCA to plan Elvis's next musical projects. They had written massive hits like Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock, songs that not only topped charts but shaped entire cultural eras. To many, they were the creative brains behind Elvis's signature sound. When they heard that Elvis wanted to show them something he had written himself, they didn't think too much of it. They respected Elvis immensely as a performer, but they had never really seen him as a songwriter. In their minds, Elvis already had everything: an extraordinary voice, unmatched charisma, and a natural magnetism. So when Elvis said he had written a song, their reaction was mild curiosity rather than excitement. But Elvis walked in that day with his guitar tucked under his arm, his steps slightly nervous yet full of sincerity. He settled on a small wooden chair while Leiber and Stoller relaxed on the studio sofa, arms folded, waiting. Elvis gave a shy smile to break the silence and said, "I don't know if this is any good, but I just want you guys to hear it." That single sentence was enough for the duo to hold their breath for a moment. Elvis rarely asked for something like this, especially not to present a personal composition. Usually he came in, recorded, discussed arrangements, and left. But today was different. He looked like a young musician bringing his first song, not the internationally adored superstar the world knew. When Elvis began strumming, the atmosphere instantly shifted. The melody was soft but carried a distinct character. There was honesty in his playing, a gentle innocence in the rhythm he built. The song seemed simple at first, but it evolved into something far more emotional. When Elvis started singing, his voice was tender, slightly raspy, warm, and filled with an emotion that was hard to describe. He wasn't singing like he did on stage. He was singing like a man unveiling a story he had held in his heart for too long. Every lyric felt like a page torn from a private journal. Leiber and Stoller listened with neutral expressions at first, nodding slightly, but soon their expressions changed. They exchanged looks as if silently asking each other, "Are you hearing what I'm hearing?" Something about the song felt different, unfiltered, sincere, and emotionally raw. Elvis wasn't trying to follow a trend, match a genre, or create a hit. He was simply being honest, and somehow that honesty created something breathtaking. When he reached the chorus, his voice rose gently, still soft but emotionally charged. The lyrics spoke of longing, loss, and quiet hope wrapped in simplicity. They weren't the clever, sharp lyrics Leiber and Stoller usually wrote, but in that simplicity lay a kind of strength that was hard to match. The melody tied everything together like a memory brought to life. Elvis even closed his eyes as he sang, letting himself drown in the song's emotion. When he strummed the last chord, the studio returned to complete silence. Elvis opened his eyes slowly, looking at both men with a hint of vulnerability, as if the song wasn't good enough. Leiber and Stoller didn't speak right away. They stared at him with unreadable expressions. Elvis gave a nervous half-smile and said, "If it's not good, I understand. I just wanted to try." But before he could finish, Mike Stoller raised his hand gently, his eyes slightly watering. "Elvis," he said softly, "we've never written anything this good." Jerry Leiber nodded, rubbing his chin slowly. "Honestly," he added, "I didn't know you had something this powerful in you." Elvis froze. How could he not? These were legends, geniuses who had written some of the greatest songs of all time. For them to praise him like that, genuinely, without hesitation, was something he had never imagined. They asked him to play the song again, this time with them taking notes. And the more Elvis played it, the more impressed they became. They dissected every small detail, the subtle shifts in melody, the emotional nuances in his voice, the natural movement between chords. After the song ended again, they immediately discussed arrangement possibilities. They talked about how the chorus could be strengthened, how a certain chord change could enhance the emotional impact, and how the bridge was naturally brilliant and shouldn't be altered. But what moved Elvis most wasn't the feedback, it was the sincerity in their praise. Leiber and Stoller were not easy men to impress. They were known for being brutally honest. Yet here they were, praising Elvis endlessly, not because he was a superstar, but because the song genuinely touched them. At that moment, Elvis realized something important. He was more than just the voice behind other people's songs. He wasn't simply a performer who sang whatever the industry gave him. He was an artist, a creator, capable of writing something beautiful from within himself. He felt a new sense of confidence, quiet but powerful, born not from fame, but from recognition from two masters who truly understood music. The duo then expressed their desire to work with Elvis as a songwriter, not just a singer. They suggested small writing sessions, private workshops where the three of them could sit together and create. They saw a natural talent in Elvis, a songwriter waiting to be uncovered. But more importantly, that moment changed how Elvis viewed himself. For the first time, he felt that he had something inside him worth expressing. He discovered a voice beyond singing, a voice that could tell stories, reveal emotions, and create something meaningful. And from that day on, he began writing more often, not for radio, not for the label, but for himself. Songwriting became his quiet refuge, a place where he could be honest without judgment. Leiber and Stoller always asked to hear his latest ideas, and while many of those songs never made it to the public, they became priceless moments between three artists who recognized each other's gifts. The world may never fully know what happened in that little studio room. No cameras, no reporters, no headlines. But for those three men, it became an unforgettable memory. A moment when two legendary songwriters looked at Elvis Presley and saw not just the king of rock and roll, but a true artist, a creator, a man who with nothing more than an old guitar and an honest heart could move them to silence and praise him endlessly. And perhaps on that day, Elvis finally understood that he was not born only to sing great songs, but to create them too.